Hello class, my name is Nicole Montgomery, and my variable is suicide due to an incurable disease. The variable for it is suicide 1, and the question that is associated with this variable is, do you think a person has the right to end his or her own life if this person has an incurable disease? That's found in the GSS, which is they take polls from people for different questions, variables, and they see different views on it. There's a lot of different variables to choose from, and I chose this one because the Brittany Maynard case from 2014 really piqued my interest. She had been diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, and she had to move to Oregon because it was legal there to commit suicide due to an incurable disease, and I believe she passed away at age 29. From GSS, this is the responses that are associated with that question, which are yes, no, don't know, no answer, not applicable. This slide is my histogram and frequency table. And a frequency table is shows how frequently or how many times each rating number was used, and it makes a pattern easy to see. The histogram is like a bar graph, and each bar goes to the height or to the frequency of each value that was in the frequency table. So my results for this one are 18.5% agree with suicide due to an incurable disease, while 12% do not. This next slide is my lambda testing. And I chose this because I'm comparing two variables that are nominal. I got that from the measures and strengths of association that the professor gave us to look at. I used age in my variable for the comparison for this test, and my approximate significance level is 0.043, which is less than 0.05, which means that we will reject the null hypothesis. My null hypothesis for this one was the average group of people will not agree with a person who is suffering from an incurable disease to have the right to end their own life. Now, since we are rejecting that, we are accepting the research hypothesis, which is the average group of people will agree that if a person is suffering from an incurable disease, they have the right to end their own life. This next slide is the cross tabulation, and for this we're comparing two variables. Now for mine, I used race to see the relationship between the different races and their view on suicide due to an incurable disease. The results showed that the race group white has the most likely to agree with suicide due to an incurable disease with a 62.7%. The race group black followed with it by a 55.2%, and other had a 50% that agreed. Next slide is the t-test, which examines the distribution of values from one variable among different groups. For mine, we use gender. We use this t-test to compare something that just has two. So since there's gender, there's male, female, and that's just two groups there that we compare it with to see what they agree or disagree with suicide due to an incurable disease. The significance level was set at 0.05, and under the sig number, it's 0.004, which is less than 0.05, so we reject the null hypothesis that states males will not support suicide due to an incurable disease, which is saying that males do support it because we rejected it since it was lower than 0.05. This next slide is the ANOVA testing. And the ANOVA testing is used whenever you're comparing your variable. So mine was suicide due to an incurable disease. I'm comparing that with religion. And we use that for this one. We use the ANOVA testing for this type of testing instead of the t-test because there are more than two subgroups for religion. So for the t-test, we use gender because there's just male and female. We use ANOVA for this because there are multiple different religions that we are comparing it with. And the results, the significant level was set at 0.05, and the sig number was 0.944. And since the sig number was not less than or equal to 0.05, it was actually greater, then I accept my null hypothesis stating that the different religions does not play a role in determining if a person believes in suicide due to an incurable disease. So here it's saying that that religion does not play a factor into suicide due to an incurable disease. And these are my references, and that is all. Thank you so much for listening.